Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Live from Arkansas, Lance. Live from Indianapolis, Joseph. Live from Arkansas, Illinois. Did you make it home? Okay.
I did.
Delaney. Ton of news. We all know let's get to it. We'll hold off on the polls until later. Joseph, set this up. What happened last night?
I was waiting in my hotel room all day, and then I pretty much gave up on the fact that we were going to get a verdict last night. But I got a phone call from the deputy to the chief judge, Tanessa. So special thanks to Chief Judge Tanya. And she put me on the list, and then her deputy was very courteous enough to give me a call. So she said I had 5 minutes to run over. This is after 8 o'clock p.m. And I ran over there real quick, and I was in fact the last person to get into the courtroom before they began. And they started right around 8:15, and it was over by 8:25. It only took about 10 minutes to get all of the guilty verdicts that came through. So again, special thanks to Doria. She was very helpful in the whole process. She was the media liaison, and they provided me such good outreach, and I was able to be in the room with the
now,
entire.
That's the first time either you or Delaney were in the courtroom. Describe the first of all, describe the players. Who was there?
It was a packed courtroom. I was in the overflow media room the entire week. But last night they allowed all family members to be on the back part of the bench. All prosecuting attorneys were next to me. I was over on the right-hand side, and then all defense lawyers and their clients were over on the left-hand side. It was very, very emotional. Chief Judge Pratt actually instructed all defendants to not have any outbursts because it was such an emotional evening, and it was very quick. It happened. We waited all day, but it took 10 minutes for it to happen. So
after the first, what was the first guilty verdict, and what was the reaction in the courtroom?
She read. So this is the count 1, conspiracy to commit the wire fraud. Carrie Agee guilty, Isley guilty, Nicole Smith guilty, Chad Griffin guilty, and Matthew Smith was found not guilty. And then they had the lesser included count 1 in the second amended indictment, and that's where Matt Smith was found guilty. So all 5 were convicted of the conspiracy charge, which the government won their case. They wanted all 5 of them in the same trial. They were all together. I don't know why they weren't tried separately, but that's how they wanted it, and they got exactly what they wanted. They got the conspiracy charge. That was the big one. Matthew Smith.
What was the reaction by the defendants? Any noticeable reaction?
The family members obviously were visibly shaken.
Yeah, I'm going to get to them. Yeah.
Yeah, but the defendants, very somber, very quiet, no reaction.
Okay, tell me about the family members.
Family members, it was a very emotional night. So there were no outbursts or anything like that, but it was a lot of tears, a lot of pain. So
go back to the first conspiracy. Delaney, do we know exactly what the specific act was on this, or did they break it out that way?
I mean, really, this conspiracy would just be all of these emails shared that proved that they had a plan for this.
Matt Smith is interesting. I don't understand the difference between the two. So he was not guilty on that, but he was found guilty of a lesser charge. Do you know the difference, Joseph?
That's all I had. This was taken. This is the only thing that I got, is that they just said there's a lesser count. There's an amended. We're looking for the docket, and it'll all come out eventually. But that's all I can report on. I don't know the difference. I don't know what it necessarily means. All I know is
let's bring up Matt Smith's attorney response. Can we do that real quick? I know we're out of order.
Yes.
Matt,
So I requested comment from Mike Donahoe. He is Matthew Smith's attorney, and he said he's very disappointed. And he plans to appeal, but any other comments would be inappropriate at this time. He's just very disappointed in the outcome. So I think we all speculated that Matt Smith, in fact, Judge Pratt had a difficult time of even making the decision on the motion to dismiss. So Matt Smith was.
Did she now, let me interrupt you there, Joseph. When she said that, did she say that in front of the jury or not?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did she, Delaney?
She said it in front of everybody, I believe. The jury might have already left. I can't remember, but I think it was everybody.
I know for a fact that she did say it was a difficult decision on Matthew Smith's dismissal.
On the directed verdict of not guilty.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Any other comments from anybody else?
From the lawyers, yes, they declined to they did email me back. They declined to comment. The government attorneys, and we could get into the comments from the industry after. No comment was made. I did not approach Carrie or any of the defendants last night. She was huddled around her family and obviously very, very upset. So I let it be, and that was that.
I have no issue with that. I think that we all know Carrie.
Yeah.
We don't need to sensationalize it, other than Lance. I mean, and we're all conflicted. This is a terrible situation for Carrie and for all the defendants and her family and everyone involved and all the employees. On the other hand, there were problems.
Rules were broken. Yeah, I'm surprised to some extent. Delaney, help me remember which one was just the employee.
It would be Nicole Smith, and I'm on the fence as well.
I'm surprised that she was convicted because she was just an employee doing what her supervisors told her to do. I'm also surprised. So I'm surprised Nicole got charged as much as she did. Not completely surprised about Carrie or Kelly or Carrie. Too many K's here because they kind of ran the show. I am surprised which guy was out of bank serve in 05.
Matthew
Smith.
He was the co-founder. He's Carrie's ex-husband.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get off because he really wasn't that involved. So.
In 2009. The indictment came 2019. So to prove that Matt was involved not only past 2005, but all the way through 2009 and later, that was difficult for the government, but they got it done. I need more information on what the lesser sentence of count one is, but he was found guilty. The jury decided that the connection was made and he was part of the conspiracy.
Which, he was sporadically copied on emails, even past his time at BankServe. So I think that played a big role in getting that guilty.
What specifically was this count for? Do we know?
This is they had specific instances where Nicole, Kelly, and Carrie were lying on changing names. So I don't know what the difference is between count 2 and 4, but it's just a different guarantee application where there was fraudulent activity in changing names and whiting out signatures or backdating. And that's how Nicole was really wrapped up in this, is because she submitted all these to Loan Guarantee Purchase Center. And Kelly got wrapped up because she was considered the quote unquote walking SOP, and how the business structure for BankServe was set up is that everything had to go through Kelly. Kelly received every single email, and it was strictly prohibited for employees to talk amongst themselves. That's why that's the government proved that Kelly was really she was operating the technical aspect of the fraud. Nicole was considered a foot soldier. She was doing all the legwork, but she was definitely proved guilty by creating false documents. I think that was driven home by Frank Pucci's testimony on Monday, where he was repeatedly lied to, and he figured it out. He eventually reported Nicole to OIG, and that's how they opened up the investigation.
Well, I think the big question, Bob, when you look at the feds were touting the sentence length on PPP loan fraud. So I was reading the other day that one of the longest sentences I saw on PPP, substantial PPP loan fraud, was right at 4 years.
Yeah.
So I think what'll be interesting is comparing, they were proud of 2 to 4 year sentences on substantial PPP loan fraud by borrowers. Where do these guys fall in
Well,
terms of?
this is significantly different, Lance. You have a high-profile woman. Carrie definitely has a target on her back. Government wants to make an example of her, and they're going to throw the book at her. Well, we'll see how much it'll be mitigated. Let's go to count 3. What was the specific crime?
It was another case of wire fraud affecting a financial institution, but like Joseph said earlier, we don't have specifics on which borrower is for each of these 4 counts. It would just be a separate occasion.
And count 5 was another one. I have a question for both of you. And see, count 4. Go ahead and go to the next one. Was Kelly and Carrie and Nicole, and count 5 was Carrie. In the defense closing, I'm curious to know, what did Nicole's attorney say? We haven't even talked about Chad, why he's in there, and what did his attorney say, and what did Matt Smith's attorney say? They each had separate closing statements, correct, Joseph?
Yeah, correct. So Carrie's defense was very emotional in the sense that she was a hardworking mother during the recession, and she was trying to feed her family, and she was doing whatever it took to get the loans and for her clients and work with SBA. And obviously that defense was not received. And Kelly, the same approach. Everybody pretty much followed Bond. He was the defense attorney that was really leading the charge for all defendants. Matthew Smith had a different approach because he was involved so much earlier. But would you agree?
What did his attorney say? Anything separate, or that stood out to you?
His attorney said that he had no part of this. There was no reason that he should have even been involved in the process at all. But the government proved without a doubt that he was. So.
What about Chad?
Chad was, his attorney got up and said he was just a brother-in-law. He was a family. There's a lot of family involved with this case. A lot of friends and family were hired at BankServe. So Chad was married to Carrie's sister. That was the arrangement. He was the chief marketing officer. I don't know if you guys remember ever going to any small business lending conference in those years. We saw BankServe booths everywhere, and he was part of that. We all met him because if you went to any of the shows, he was running that whole operation. He was running the whole thing. So he was just mixed up in some family business. His wife's sister was really running the scheme, but he was just wrapped up in it because he worked for her. So that was their approach.
I know we don't. In fact, one of Joe asked the question: why in the world did Nicole? Why didn't she separate herself from these why wasn't she on a separate trial? My comment is, and I'd like to know everyone else's opinion, is she followed Carrie and Kelly when she worked at BankServe and followed them to do what they did, and then all of a sudden they're all arrested and she's following them again. I mean, I don't understand why she did not have a separate trial, and we're speculating. But Joseph, I'll let you go first, and Delaney second, and Lance clean up.
Yeah, let me pull that comment up from Joseph, which is great. He questions the same thing. Why didn't she cut a deal? She could have been a key witness for the government. She could have decided to do so many different things, and she ended up in the courtroom with them, with all 5 defendants. So the optics looked like a conspiracy. I mean, you put all 5 together, and it looked like they were organized. Whether she was, I mean, she submitted so many fraudulent applications, but her defense was that she was doing her job and she was trained to do that. She was trained by Kelly Isley to do whatever it took to fix the pages. That was a big smoking gun. In one of the emails Kelly sent to Nicole, she would say, fix the pages to make it work. You know, whether you change the business name or you backdate a date or you white out a signature, you have to get it done. And she more than got wrapped up in this. She was part of it. So,
Delaney?
I will always sit here and wonder why she did not separate from the rest of them. It would have been so much easier to play this innocent card that she was just following her supervisors. When you put her in the room, I agree with you, Joseph, and you see all of this evidence put together between the 5 of them. I mean, it was bound to happen. She was bound to be guilty.
Oh, yeah. Once they decided to try her together, they weren't going to separate her. Lance?
Well, it brings up a very important point. Underwriters and closers always have the opportunity to wave their hand and say, no, this is not right.
And that's what you teach in your training. You teach that.
If it were a single cert, now, first of all, I'm surprised she didn't separate herself, because it would have made the, hey, I'm just following what Kelly and Carrie told me to do, more relevant. But by keeping with them, I think the challenge is she did it over and over again. And again, an underwriter and a closer certainly needs to, if looking at a loan application you're working on, and there's an eligibility issue, you need to raise your hand and say, no, this is not right. We can't proceed. And I think that's what's relevant here.
You have a boss, Lance, who says, fix the pages.
That's a great point, Lance.
Bob, I'm going to find a different place to work if that's what's going to be asked.
Nicole,
fair enough.
Yeah, Nicole was charged. Well, they characterized her as part of the fraud because she failed to report fraudulent behavior, and that's important for every SBA lender on this call across the country. I think, I mean, if you do not report it, then you are that they really set the table with this guilty verdict for that example.
And one thing, Bob, there is a difference between correcting things and altering things.
Right. So let's finish up. Let's finish up with the 2 comments. We have a bunch of PPP stuff, portal stuff. We will hold that over till tomorrow. Bring up the comment from Pam. Very nice comment, Pam. Thank you. I've been glued to the case, knowing this business for over 33 years and hearing the details that may confuse some, but are very comprehensive to me. She agrees. Guilty, guilty, guilty. I'd like George's statement. Says, what upsets me the most is that this will affect the trust between SBA and their preferred lenders. We have all worked hard to build that trust, and they just cut all the lenders off at their knees. That's a very harsh statement, but I can't argue with it, Lance.
Well, and even LSPs, we forget about LSPs. There are a lot of great LSPs with tremendous integrity that are doing great things in the SBA lending space, and this kind of tarnishes or causes them to have to work harder to prove that they operate with integrity, because there are many great LSPs out there that do things the right way.
I agree. Unfortunately, because of this case now, SBA may say, all right, the relationship with the lender is going to be key because they're going to say, can we trust this lender making these
Well, and in today's environment with the 50-10-6 and the language about the relationship between an LSP and a participant lender, this case might have been different because SBA tells the lenders you can't rely solely on your LSP. You've got to know the SOP.
Well, and that came out. Yeah, a lot of the 50-10-6 came out because of what happened with this case.
Yeah.
Fascinating analysis. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.